Hello everyone, I'm Miriam Phillips, a doctoral fellow with the Educational Leadership and Policy Analysis program at East Tennessee State University. Philip has done a wonderful job going over accessibility, which leads us to the discussion of assessment. Many of the communication components Philip addressed will also have a place in the assessment portion of our presentation. First, we have to address the myth that assessment is only testing and grading a student's written work. While these are important components of assessment, we cannot fall into the cycle of only assessing with these tools. Assessment should capture that quantitative data, but should also capture the attitudes, values, and dispositions of a student, that qualitative piece of knowing and learning. I would like to take a moment now for you to stop and discuss with your peers and your colleagues some of the types of assessment you used in your course outline. Dr. Flora, if you would please pause the video for a minute or two. I'm glad that you were able to discuss some of those assessment portions with one another, and now I want to move on to addressing what online assessment is and what online assessment is not. When we move into discussing online assessment, we also have to address what online assessment is not. While the technology we have access to makes it easy to track how long and what areas of a website a student has visited, this is not an accurate capture of learning. When we rely on counting methods, we ignore the value of a student's work. When we solely focus on the individual paper, we discount the importance of team building and collaboration. Yet there are some best practices we can pull into online assessment. Ones that increase student interaction and is being student-focused rather than instructor-centered. What adds to the student's overall understanding and learning of the material. Creating a sense of community with an online classroom, posting pictures, and having an area for non-course related conversations is one way to increase student interaction. Along with this, we have to be accountable as instructors to give accurate and timely feedback. Another added layer here is providing or creating the opportunities for students to demonstrate their knowledge in a specific area. Examples of this type of collaboration could be team projects, team multimedia presentations. It all begins with communication. Everything in education begins with communication. The roles or responsibilities seem to have shifted a bit when we are talking about an online class. Traditionally, the burden of presenting learning material has been on the instructor, while in an online learning environment, that burden resides with the student. The student has to log in and actually find the material to read, cover, and study. While that burden has lifted off the instructor, a new burden has been placed on the online instructor, and that is carrying the responsibility to reach out and start communications with each student. The instructor can do this with some of the above-mentioned methods, asynchronous and synchronous messaging, through chat rooms, online messages, discussion forums, and emails. But one important component is the instructor must always remember to have an approachable and interactive style of written communication. The focus of these interactions should be to increase social interaction, decrease the fear or anxiety in students, especially those students who may be new to technology, and create areas for sharing non-course related work, which will create a sense of connection within the classroom. Since some of the communication and interaction will be void of nonverbal gestures and body language, the instructor needs to also find ways to include this in their written forms of communications. Some common examples used would be the use of emoticons. There are many challenges that faculty and administrators face in the realm of assessment, but the three identified above encompass many of the various issues in online assessment: technology, support, and expectations. There are times when the technology or teaching platforms that we use do not allow for a great deal of interaction or for rich assessment. This requires the administrators to support faculty and listen to their concerns, while it also requires that faculty take some added initiative and begin to look outside of their comfort zone. Support is an area that is also tied to funds, but can also be talked about at an interpersonal level. Administrators and department chairs need to be there to support those faculty who may need some additional guidance in the realm of online teaching and assessment. The last area is expectations for both faculty and administrators. We need to understand that just because we can have 25 or 30 students in one online class does not mean that we should. Are we really creating the best learning environment for both the student and the faculty when we overload courses? More is not always better. Faculty, on the flip side, need to understand that online is not necessarily easier, and to some degree requires even more work and time than the traditional class. To close out, I want to emphasize that online is different, but that loss of face-to-face component is not an indicator of a lower educational experience. There is research that reveals that compared to the traditional classroom, students engage in more interaction while learning online. If students are engaging more with each other in online learning, then we as faculty and administrators need to identify ways to enhance that learning experience. An online class should not feel like the old correspondence courses. There are so many resources out there now to increase the effectiveness of online learning and assessment. However, this requires us to take a step outside of our comfort zones to learn and to try new things. Thank you very much.